This is Mary Amick, and this is my Barriers Project video for EDU 525. I'm going to discuss the standards, the Missouri Leadership Standards, and the common barriers that may block them from being put into play as based on athletic administrations and athletic programs. Standard 1 is the vision, mission, and goals. So that the education leaders will have the knowledge and ability to ensure the success of all the students by facilitating, developing, articulation, implementation, and stewardship of the school or school district's vision of learning supported by the school community. The quality indicator, develop and articulate a vision, and are on the quality indicator 2, implement and steward a vision. I think the barriers with this would be that if you did not have an athletic administrator that fully understood and supported the mission and the vision and the goals of the school district, or if you had one that came in and tried to, when they started new, tried to radically kind of push their own values and morals and their vision onto the program itself, I think you've got to find a common ground between those. So that may take just some conversations with folks at the district office or the district level to make sure that both mission and vision, while they might be a little bit different as it is pertaining to the sports side of that, but knowing that you have knowledgeable leaders there to ensure success of our programs, and not just measuring that success as wins and losses per se, but measuring that as maintaining a high standard for our student athletes to keep those grade point averages up, to push the student first before the athlete. I think the development of that and the articulation and implementation of that could really be having those kids going out in the school, out in the community. I mean, and maybe you have the varsity team that's in season every Friday, open up the car doors for the kids to see the younger level kids have those kind of high school stars in a way, helping them out. That's kind of one of the ways to break down those barriers. Standard 2, the teaching and learning. Educational leaders have the knowledge and ability to ensure the success of all the students by promoting a positive school culture, providing an effective instructional program that applies to best practices of the student learning, and designing comprehensive professional growth plans for staff. I think this really speaks to the effect of the athletic director themselves. How are you going to create a positive culture? What can you provide that the other person cannot? What does that mean for our coaches? Does that mean even when we lose that we just pat them on the back and say that's okay? I think there's always something to learn, and there's always a way to spin everything to be positive. Promoting that positive culture, promoting lifting each other up instead of tearing each other down. I know a lot of times in sports that's hard. When we lose, we take it personally. I still don't like losing as a coach myself. I never like losing as a player, but there's a way to lose gracefully and there's a way to win gracefully. And I think if we can master both of those, which are very hard, then you really truly get to the core of what being a student athlete means. Providing an effective instructional program, that means, there's a barrier there sometimes we have a win-win-win mentality and that's it. And we may take 10 players and we only need 5 to play in the basketball team and we sit those other 5. I mean, that's not an effective program. You're just collecting bodies when you don't intend to play them. To promote that positive culture and to provide that effective instructional program, I think you got to utilize everyone that you bring on. Some folks will play more, some folks will play less. That's inevitable. But at the end of the day, you're trying to promote being a teammate and what that means. I don't believe that everyone gets fair playing time or that everyone gets a trophy, but I do believe that everybody should have an equal opportunity. And if they're not performing, then they don't get to play much. Design comprehensive professional growth plans. This can be hard if you're having a tough season and you are very young, like a lot of teams will be, graduating a lot of seniors. We will do that next year with our volleyball program. And designing a comprehensive professional growth plan for our team is going to be tough because we won't have much in the way of leadership per se because we won't have many returners. So that in itself can provide a huge barrier. Standard 3, the management or organizational systems. Educational leaders have the knowledge and ability to ensure the success of all the students by managing the organization, operations, and resources the way that promotes a safe, efficient, and effective learning environment. Management, you got to make sure that your kids are taken care of first and foremost. Their safety is your utmost concern. We can't leave them anywhere. We can't, we may have somewhere we want to be, but our main priority when we are coaching and when we are in season is our players. And it should always be that way. Leading them personally, leading the personnel. As a head coach, you have to act like a head coach, on and off the field. And I think some people kind of confuse that. Social media is a huge barrier, I think, for this. When you become friends with parents or friends with students or players, it opens yourself up to a whole lot of trouble. So I tend to stay away from that unless I have a strictly athletic account, which I do, and I post things there. Managing your resources, making sure that you know how much money is in your account as a coach, so that you don't overspend or not spend enough to take care of your team's needs. There's a lot of barriers in that organizational system. Standard 4, collaborating with families and stakeholders. You cannot communicate too much. That's one of the things I think is a common misconception, that is a huge barrier. We don't like to talk to parents, but we need to talk to parents. That's always been a barrier, and that's always something that I try and make an open door policy. I will speak to a parent about anything but playing time. In my opinion, a player should always approach that. Ethics and integrity, making sure that we handle all students in the same manner, not the superstar different from the not superstar, making sure we treat everyone fairly. If a rule's a rule, it's a rule for everyone. And professionally develop. I think this can be kind of a cop-out for some of our coaches. We have a high school league conference every year, and it's at the beach, and or it's at the beach, or it's in the upstate of South Carolina. And a lot of times our coaches will get out of those things and not professionally develop because they've been winning, so maybe they think that they know everything there is to know. But I learned so much from these things when sitting in with these various college coaches that come in and talk about practice planning and talk about defensive and offensive strategies and different sides of the game and ways to break the game down. You just learn so much. I think as a coach, a huge barrier can be for you when you don't grow and your players are growing. That can cause, it can break down any number of these standards. It can break down the ethics. It can break down the collaboration with the families and your stakeholders. And I mean, it just goes all the way back up to the top. You've got to be willing to learn like we are asking our players and students to.